Hey, Mark. Hi, Vicki.
Hey guys,
Hello.
hello
We're
from the frigid Midwest.
frigid Midwest. Yeah, you guys, your temperatures just are off the
Um,
rails.
it might have hit zero.
On the high.
Not
I didn't think
here.
about that.
Yeah, we haven't seen zero. Mm-mm. It's
Oh no.
cold.
I gotta
Mm-mm.
say, yesterday we went outside and it was so it's been getting down to like 32 at night here, and there was the thinnest coating of frost on the rail, and
Mm.
Mr. D says, "It's snow!" And I'm like, oh, you poor Seattle kids.
Does he get super
Yeah.
excited when it does snow?
Yeah, but I don't think he can remember the last time it snowed in the city.
Oh,
Mm, yeah.
So
wow.
yeah, it was, but yeah,
Yeah.
I felt bad for him. I'm like, yeah, that coating of frost on the railing is not
Yeah.
what we call snow.
Well, and you have to watch out for that. I have a dear friend who I think it was a week ago Friday, slid and broke her foot.
Mm.
And
Oh.
it's that, I'd rather it snow because then you can
Hmm.
you can get
Mhm.
traction on it.
Crunch it.
But what
Hmm.
Mr. D was observing, that's that treacherous stuff where one minute you're up, the next minute you're down.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's
No
Wow.
true.
fun.
All
No.
right, so today we're going off the rails. We have no scripting, no agenda, just here talking with our best blog buddies. Not that we have a tight agenda to begin with, but this is even looser than usual.
Well, and I want to add this was kind of by request, so I'm going to
Hmm.
call out, Mark in his
Yeah.
cockpit there. I don't remember when it was, but Mark said, "Hey, let's turn the tables sometime." So we've
Yeah.
tentatively called this episode "Out of Our Comfort Zone," with Mark
Right.
Petruska.
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 Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Wynne and I, we get courage points for just being here, I think. Ooh.
Hmm. Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I am totally out of my comfort zone on this thing. I don't know. For those of you who've never actually participated in the podcast, there are prompts ahead of time. I like to do an outline. The first time I came on with you guys, I had every answer written out, and I'll admit it, I was basically reading from a script.
Yeah.
But see, Vicki would try to throw me off. She would veer off the script and throw out some questions that took me out of my comfort zone. So I kind of thought, well, what if we sort of all do that? Turn the
Right.
tables and just see what happens.
Right. We're gonna
So yeah,
rename
I'm,
her
I'm a
Veer
little
Off.
nervous.
We're gonna rename her Veer Off Vicky.
Veer off it.
I've been called worse. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
As a writer, I like to have my words all scripted
Yeah.
out. So yeah, this is something very different for me.
Right.
Mm,
But I can only blame myself for coming up with the idea. So
that's true. That's very
And
true.
then leaning into it. That's what we love about you, Mark. You lean into these ideas that you come up with.
might as well go all in.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So you're going to lead us off with our first out of our comfort zone question?
Yeah, I think the format we decided on is that each of us is going to ask a question to the group. None of us
Mhm.
knows what the other person's going to
Mhm.
ask, and we'll just see what we come up with, and
Mm.
hopefully it's entertaining.
Mhm.
Um, so you want me to go first?
Yeah.
Okay, well, it's very hard to narrow the choices down. There's so many great questions I could ask,
Mm.
but I was wondering, could you guys tell me your most memorable meal?
Ooh.
And I'm
Oh.
happy to lead off
Mhm.
to give you a little time to think about it, to digest it, if you will. See what I did. When I thought of this question, my immediate first thought was Beast in Portland.
Mm.
It was a restaurant. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Naomi Pomeroy.
Mm.
She's she was an up and coming Michelin starred chef, very big on the Portland food scene, and unfortunately, she passed away last
Mm.
summer in an accident on the Willamette River.
Oh
Oh.
no.
But yeah, she had a restaurant where you would go. It was called Beast, and it was like a 7 or 8 course meal for a fixed price,
Mm-hmm.
and it wasn't cheap. It was
Mm.
couple $100. So it was definitely an experience. But we went there, uh, communal seating, seated at a table with other people you don't know. At the end of our table was Hillary Swank. It was
Oh,
Wow.
kind of cool.
Yeah.
Well, it was a great experience, and the food was wonderful. It was amazing. It was the first time I ever had beef tartare and just all these upscale dishes. The wine pairings were fantastic, but that's not actually my answer. I
oh, gee, it sounded a lot like an answer. I don't know.
I
Yeah.
know. Um, I have an even better one, actually,
Mm,
and it's just going to show that it's not necessarily about the food
Mm.
so much as what's going on in your life.
Mhm.
In
mm,
October 2017, Tara and I took a spontaneous road trip out to Rapid City, South
Mm.
Dakota, because we were thinking about moving out there,
Mm.
and Tara had never been. And so our first day there, we rolled into town. We hit the Custer Wildlife Loop. We did a hike in the Black Hills. It was a beautiful fall day, sunshine, warm temperatures. The trees were turning golden as they do out there. Just had a really good day. And then we got back into town and we went to this restaurant called Murphy's
Mm.
Pub and Grill. I mean, the food was fine. I had bison meatloaf, which was really good, actually.
mm.
But it was nothing fancy like the Beast experience. But as we were sitting there over dinner, we started talking about our day. And so I turned to Tara and I said, "So, what do you think? Are we going to uproot our lives and move to the Midwest?" And she said, "Let's do it." So to me, that is just
Oh,
that's a very memorable meal, not because of what we ate,
yeah.
but because
Mhm.
it changed the whole trajectory of our lives. If we hadn't moved to
Oh,
South Dakota, we wouldn't be in Wisconsin now. So
yeah.
Right. Right.
yeah,
Oh,
Wow.
and
that's a good answer.
That's a
that's
really
kind of
good
my
answer.
two-part answer, I
Yeah.
guess.
I like it.
I have a two-part answer too because
Mm,
it kind of starts with when I went in, I was 20 years old and I was waiting to get into the College of Electrical Engineering at the University of Washington. And so I had a quarter where I applied, but I wasn't in yet to that particular discipline at the U. And so there was this adventure that we could go that I signed up for to spend 5 weeks in Ecuador. And we spent 2 weeks hiking in the Andes and 2 weeks hiking in the jungle and then
mm.
1 week on these remote beaches. And I wasn't a hiker. I didn't have any of this experience yet. Like the first time I put on a pack, I like immediately tipped over. I was like, oh no. So,
Oops.
at one point, probably 3 weeks on into this trip, we were living with an Indian tribe in the in the Amazon River basin and eating, we brought along our own food for breakfast and we were eating, whatever the group food was. But we'd hiked into this we'd from our camp, we'd hiked into the middle of the jungle and then whacked down some bushes and set up tents. Like
Wow.
like living in the jungle in a hut wasn't enough. We were going to go to the heart of the jungle and whack down the bushes and set up a tent. So we were tired from hiking. I mean, I thought that the Amazon would be flat, but it was up and down, and we had to cross streams on logs, and it was
Mm.
sort of a mess. And we were sitting there, and the assistant director of the trip says, "Guys, I'd set up your tent." And we were busy. We were so hungry. We were eating Velveeta cheese from the box with our
uh,
hands. Yeah, we were like, "This is so good. We cannot imagine why we would stop."
Animals. You're just
Yes,
animals.
animals. Yeah, why we would stop eating Velveeta cheese from the box in the middle of the Amazon?
Wait.
It's like,
Velveeta cheese in the block form? Like you
yeah,
had to like dig in with your nails to like get a hunk?
yep.
Oh, Lord.
It was
Oh.
it was sorry. And the guy's like, "I haven't set up your tents right now." We're like, "Why? We're eating." Like it could rain. And sure enough, it starts pouring rain and then we had to set up
Oh.
our tents in the rain. So
Oh my
so the
gosh.
but
Velveeta was extra slimy.
exactly. So my most memorable meal actually is a sort of a two-part answer is everything that I've eaten when I've come off the mountain. Like there's
Mm,
Oh,
this
yeah.
little,
mm.
and on Mount Rainier down in Ashford, Washington. It might not even be there. It's right outside the national park entrance. There's this great restaurant that serves incredible hamburgers. Actually, they might be ordinary hamburgers, but every time I taste one, they're incredible hamburgers and
Right.
beer,
Hmm.
which I
Yeah.
don't usually drink beer, but it just somehow you come down, you've summited, you've come down, you're eating a hamburger and beer, and then they have this cherry pie that's to die
Mm,
for.
Oh,
mm.
yum.
So that's
How
my
Wow.
very
answer.
Twin Peaks.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Same region.
Yeah. Ooh,
That's
that sounds really
fantastic.
good.
I love it.
Yeah. Hmm.
Vicky?
Mine at the very first thing that came to mind is just such a stupid little story, and it's actually less about the food. So I don't know, but I'll tell you because I don't think it's a story I've ever told or written about outside of the family. But my parents, when they lived in the Bay Area in San Francisco, my dad developed a fast, fascination with Napa. So we would go there, pretty regularly. There was and my dad could be Mr. Fancy Pants when he wanted to be. He could also be Mr. Down Home when he wanted to be, but this was a fancy pants outing, right? So we go to this new, and I'm sure it was probably some acclaimed Michelin star, chef, and like you were describing, Mark, with like a prefix menu,
Yeah.
right? You were coming, and if you can think about like Napa, it's a lot of converted houses, that are turned into restaurants and kind of small spaces. And my dad was like 6'4". Paul and I were married at the time. Paul shrunk, I think, a little. He was 6'6" maybe at the time. And I'm 5'9", and I'm not a small person. Um, my sister was there, also not a small person, and my mom, who was, her weight varied greatly across, her lifetime. But she was larger. There's a point to that. I'm not just body shaming. So we walk into this. So immediately I'm going to ask you both to go like this. Hold your breath and go like you're like, yeah, like we walked in and immediately like the tables were all packed in really tight, and it was
Mhm.
like the first seating, and this poor maitre d' and the chef was like in the background. I think we were like maybe some of the first people to be seated for dinner. And the very first thing that they said both together, they looked up at my dad and then they looked at the people with him and they're like, "Oh, big people, big people." And then they started talking, saying, and I can, pick up still a little bit of French, but it was rapid fire. And all of a sudden we were like seated off the kitchen. They came up with this, I think impromptu thing to give a little bit more room because the seats were very tight. It was like bistro tables. But forever after, anytime my dad just thought it was hilarious. He was not the least bit offended. But oh, big people. It became like a family joke anytime we went somewhere, on the way there. My dad would be like, so should we like, this is before you could like Google restaurants and know,
Mhm.
know what it was going to look like. It's like, should we call ahead and let them know we're big people before we come? But I can't remember what we ate, but they were so apologetic to us
Mhm.
because I think they realized, they were offensive. But we were not the petite little crowd. I mean, this was like the crew rolling in. Yeah.
I love it.
It's
Yeah.
it doesn't matter what you ate, it's the experience.
Mm.
And you guys ended up with a great inside family joke, and I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, yeah, but had nothing to do with the food. So Paul and I still joke about it. Sometimes there's a great Italian restaurant not too far from where we live, and it's same kind of vibe in a converted house. And we were there recently with our daughter and her fiance, and we were so happy that they opened up a bigger space in the basement because it was less like like this.
Mhm.
And Paul and I were joking about the big people moment. Yeah, yeah. So
I
there you
love
go.
that not all of our answers were really all about the people and the experience.
Yeah, that's
Exactly.
true.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yep,
That's
the
good.
moments. Yep, I like it.
So, Vicky, do you want to go next with your?
Well, yeah, and like, Mark said, we didn't really like talk about this ahead of time, but Wynne and I sometimes think about the same thing. So I was like, oh
Yeah.
gosh, should I have checked with you ahead of time to see? But
I had that fear too that we might
I
ask the same
know.
question. So I did
Right.
have a backup.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, mine, and this might be a little bit more serious, but if you could, one time only, if you could have a do-over in your life, one time only, what would it be?
Do you want to go first?
No, no, no.
If I could
Vicky
have a
doesn't want to lead.
do-over, I would
Mm-mm.
have Vicky go first.
I had to do over. I would say no to this episode. Just kidding. That was just a joke.
Oh,
Oh
ouch.
no! And then I think we froze. Vicky froze.
Oh, no.
No, but that was pretty funny. I'm so sorry. All of a sudden, you guys all froze in a very interesting, probably me too,
Yeah. Well,
facial
it
expression.
it sort of reminds me of my answer. I think so. Maybe I'll go unless Mark, you have a strong.
No, go for it.
Um, back when COVID first started, and I was, I do technology consulting, and
Mm-hmm.
I had a big training session on how to use Teams. And I had, probably 30 people waiting for me, and I couldn't get into the meeting.
Oh,
I couldn't get into the meeting that I scheduled. And
yes.
so my answer really is that I wouldn't do a do-over moment
Ah,
because here's what I learned. I have two or three different email addresses that I use, especially when
yeah.
with my clients. I have one for them. And because I couldn't get into my own meeting that I was doing the training, I figured out that the identity of who I was signed in as when I scheduled the meeting
Oh.
determined whether I could come into the meeting or not. And so,
Ah.
and I would
You
say that
learned.
I would,
Mm.
and I would say that I probably wouldn't do any do-overs because I've always learned something.
Oh, I like that. Well, and I
That's nice.
love that your thought had something to do with me, like freezing up and needing to get bounced out and
Right.
come back in. And did
It's
you
Mhm.
almost
have
like
that
you guys,
idea before I bounced?
I was
Sorry,
going to
I
Mark.
say, it's like you planned that.
Yeah.
I had the idea that I would probably do a do-over, but
Yeah.
then the technology snafu made me realize.
I like it.
Well, I've pondered this for a few minutes, and my initial thought was pretty negative that I wouldn't marry my ex-wife. I think a lot of people would
Yeah.
say something like that, but that's not my answer again because then I wouldn't have my kids who are
Hmm.
very important to me. And oh,
Yeah.
hey, there's Shirley. Wow,
Oh.
Oh,
guest
hello,
appearance.
Shirley. Oh,
So
she's so
actually,
cute.
my answer would be when I was thinking about going to college, I had it narrowed down to a couple of schools. There was Trenton State University
Hmm.
because they had a really good communications program, and that's what I was interested in. And the other one that I was really interested in, even though I had never been to Wisconsin before, was the University of Wisconsin at Madison. Again, they had a really good communications program. Um, I was intrigued by the idea of living in the Midwest. I think it would have been great to actually have the college experience, leave home, go away to college, live in a dorm, all of that. Instead, I ended up going to San Jose State. It's a fine school, but I lived at my parents' house. I commuted there. It wasn't the true college experience, and I've always kind of wondered what it would have been like
Yeah.
to, again, step outside of my comfort zone and have that
Hmm.
college experience. And
Hmm.
it is a regret that I didn't get to do anything like that. Now, I'm not saying I would join a fraternity and run around wearing a toga, although maybe I would. I don't know. So
Channel
my
your John
do-over,
Belushi.
yeah, exactly. My
Hmm.
do-over would be choosing to go to college here in this very state where I've ended up living.
Mm,
Oh,
it's a
I
good
like
answer.
that. Yeah.
What about you, Vicky?
I mean, I just asked the question. I have to answer it too. I don't know. I mean, it could be thoughtful or serious or just stupid. What on le menu, which would you like? Thoughtful, serious, stupid. You can treat me like a jukebox. What would you like?
Stupid.
Stupid?
Yeah.
Wynne, stupid?
I was yes, you Mark answered first.
I think it's also it is quite stupid, but I did not have my question prepared before we sat down. I'd forgotten we needed to come up with one. So when I said, "Oh, Wynn and I may be thinking about the same thing," it was like in the moment we might.
Mhm.
So this wasn't really well thought out about what I would share, but the first thing that um, came to mind, and I've written about it. When I was touring in France with a choral group, that story about me
Mhm.
falling off the risers. I think the title of the post was something like Falling in Avignon, which was true. Um, in that moment when I was on the back of the risers, I had no idea that, when we were goofing off and I was giggling, that my desire to clutch on to someone else's robe was going to be as cataclysmic as it was. But like everyone went down like bowling pins, and it was all because of me. And I
Oh.
think about that now. There were so
Hmm.
many other things that I could have done, to steady myself. But the thing that I did, you know, triggered a complete end of show.
Mm.
It was
Mm.
done. People got injured. So, I mean,
Mm.
I'm not sure that I could have completely prevented it, but it was not one of my finer moments.
Hmm.
And I am quite klutzy. So, fair warning if you're ever around me, if I grab on, I might take you down with me. Yeah.
Right.
So
Yeah.
your
Right.
do-over is not grabbing on.
Yeah. Just if I'm going to fall, just go, but, I,
Yeah.
suffer
That
the
is
consequences. Yeah.
that
Hmm.
instinct is going to be a little hard to squelch in the moment, right?
Yeah, but I think I could have done better. I could have done better. And then it just kicked off a whole series of very naughty things that happened that I think I threw the barn door open in France. Yeah.
Well,
France. Yeah.
I'd say 35 seasons of America's Funniest Videos will tell you that not grabbing on is grabbing on is what everybody does.
Yeah, it should never have
Yeah.
happened. So don't ever put me in a public
Mm.
spectacle where I have to like perform curb the giggles.
Mm.
Yeah, it
Hmm.
was not good.
Right.
Mm-mm. There's a
Well,
little
it's
bit of being hungover too, so I got to admit that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
too bad no one had a camera on you. You could have won a lot of
Gosh,
money.
oh my gosh.
Hmm.
There are some still photos, that had to do with chaperones documenting the destruction, what I'd done. But
Oh no.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, if I could do it over, I would. And even, in many years after that, at graduations or moments when you're standing up in someone's wedding or all of
Hmm.
these like formal occasions, I realized for years afterward, I am incredibly tense in those
Mm.
situations, even though I don't mind public speaking or doing things in those moments that matter to other people. I always worry that I'm going to mess it up for others.
Mm.
Yeah, so it hung with me, I think,
Hmm.
for decades.
Hmm.
Yeah, so that's my stupid
Mm.
do-over. Hmm.
Love it.
That's a good one.
Yeah, yeah, but like you said, when there are lessons, right?
Yeah.
And Mark, what you shared, right? It's
Mhm.
the life-changing impact. If we could go back and change one moment in time, it makes listening to both of you, it made me think about the ripples.
Hmm.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah. All right,
that's
Mary
true.
Wynn,
All
you're
right.
up, girl.
I have three questions, and none of them were what you
It's
two.
not allowed.
Well,
Oh,
I had to have three
Yeah.
because one of my first ones was Mark's, and one of my second ones was Vicky's. Anyway, I had to have three. So
okay.
here's my question.
Ah.
What is your favorite invention? And I mean recent invention. I'm not
Oh.
talking the wheel or uh, how to make
Hmm.
fire or anything like that. I'm talking about recent invention. And I could go first if you guys want. Give you some
Wow.
time.
I can go.
Okay, go.
Okay.
The crock pot. It's so simple,
Oh.
Oh.
but I think I've even blogged about that before, that the crock
Oh.
pot is my favorite invention. It's not high tech, but
Mm-hmm.
it gets the job done. How amazing is it that you can leave the house at 7 o'clock in the morning, come home at 5 p.m. after dark, and have dinner already waiting
Hmm.
for you?
Hmm.
It's like you have a maid for a chef, and you don't even
Right?
have to pay for their services.
That is
Yeah.
I love
amazing.
that crock pot. I
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
I do.
I
Yeah.
love a slow cooked meal.
Yeah.
Do you
Yeah.
have a favorite thing that you make in yours?
Um, like a pot roast
Mm-hmm.
usually turns out really good. I have
Mm-hmm.
a recipe for a beef pot roast with the Campbell's condensed cream of mushroom soup and
Hmm.
Mm.
uh yeah,
I'm gonna
veggies
have
Mm.
in
to
there,
try that.
mushrooms that have mushrooms in there.
Huh.
Mm. We made Paul loves, a good Italian beef with a lot of hot jardiniere, and I'm
Mm,
not totally vegetarian. I can eat a little bit of meat and kind of
mhm,
cheat, but I made that last weekend, and it's so funny. Right before I came into my office to join you guys, I said to Paul, I think when I'm in the spirit of soups on with Beth Kennedy,
Yeah.
I found a recipe that I'd forgotten for kind of an Irish pub kind of hearty potato soup.
Mm-hmm.
And I
mm,
made it yesterday in the crock pot. But I
Mm.
mm,
said to Paul before I came upstairs to join you both, I said, I think I need to put it back in the crock pot, and it's the thing
Mm-hmm.
out of the fridge, put it back in today because I think it needs just a little bit more. Where
mm,
normally, if I make soup or something, I divide it up and freeze some. But yeah, I think
Mm.
I would never have thought of that. But
Mm-hmm.
can I confess something to both of you?
Mm-hmm.
of course.
I won't leave the house with it on. Was it the TV show This Is Us where the
This
house
is
burned
us.
down because of a crock
Yeah.
pot? I
Now,
can't do it.
the producer said that could not ever happen in real life. It was dramatized for TV, but
Yeah,
I mean, I understand your concern. There's always that fear of leaving the house with something plugged in, but
yeah.
I will say I've been using my crock pot for 30 years
Mm.
and have not ever had a house burn down, knock on wood.
I know, and I'm sure it's just like some stupid phobic thing on my part, but I love
Yeah.
your answer.
So thank you. So you'll have the crock pot on when you're home.
Yes.
Um, we do too. Actually, one of the more interesting things we make in the crock pot is Tara does lasagna in there, which
What?
I'd never heard of that before. And she
Huh.
doesn't even pre-cook the noodles. She just layers the
Wow.
lasagna, the cheese, the meat, tomato sauce, throws it in
Mm.
the crock pot. Like 3 or 4 hours later, it's ready.
Mm.
It's so much
Wow.
less work than doing it in the oven. And to me, it tastes pretty good because you still get those crispy edges.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does she have to make it a little saucier though, because the noodles aren't cooked ahead of
Yeah,
time?
yeah, through trial and error. I think the first couple times she did it, we ended up adding more sauce. But yeah, now she just compensates for that and adds it at the beginning, and it turns out really good.
Wow. Love
That's
that.
that's
Yeah,
Oh
interesting.
gosh.
yeah,
Yeah. Hmm.
funk.
I like that. Now I'm hungry. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't
Mm-hmm.
had lunch
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
yet.
Mm-hmm. Same. I know. Well, I liked your answer, Mark, but now I'm influenced by it. Should I just go with what I thought of first?
Yeah. First, go
Yeah.
with the first instinct.
I love, and it's a byproduct of, I think, what we're doing today. I love and hate all the communication tools that we have.
Mm.
I love that I can really walk around with my phone and ignore, my desktop, my iPad. I kind of hate it sometimes, but what I love about it is the connectivity. I was thinking the other day about old-fashioned letter writing and how I value holding on, to something that someone wrote and touched and it matters. But I think I am so enamored with the expediency, the efficiency, the ability to connect and have that interchange, so I don't know if it's one invention win or
Mm.
how you would classify it,
Right.
but I think maybe technology just related to communication because I mean, Mark, you're in Wisconsin, I'm outside Chicago, Wynn's in Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but the nearness of both of you, I think
Yeah,
it's compelling. So
Yeah.
even though I hate it sometimes too, I'm glad I live in this time, you
Well,
know?
it just to go full circle. It makes it so that you can work from home and then still have your crock pot on.
Oh,
right.
oh, yeah, right?
Yep.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
otherwise, we'd all have to be together doing our podcast.
Yeah.
And then before the camera started rolling, you guys even had a chance to meet Tara. So once
Mm-hmm.
again, we can thank
Right?
communication for that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That was a
yeah.
good.
It's delightful. Absolutely delightful.
Mhm.
Well, I
Well, I'm
think
curious, what's yours?
yeah, so we have these heated blankets that I have put on our couch. So I have one heated blanket for Mr. D and one heated blanket for Miss O, and I sort of, squeeze under. But it has made when we snuggle on the couch in the mornings, just like I preheat them before they wake up, and then they
Oh,
come downstairs and we get into these. Maybe this is because it's, cold here. I understand that it's not really cold compared to you guys, and
yeah.
maybe it's just to go along with Mark's crock pot answer of things that we would do in the winter. But
Yeah.
I love these heated blankets that make it so we don't have to have cold toes and
So wait a
Mm.
minute. Is it like an electric blanket then?
hmm
Okay, yeah, yeah.
but it's a throw. I mean, it's a smaller than
Mhm.
you'd put on the bed on a
Yeah.
bed.
Do you have to
Yeah.
plug it into an outlet? Again, I'm not
hmm
exactly going down the crock pot phobia,
Yep.
kind of route. But when you leave the house, do you make sure that they're not plugged in? Is that a thing?
I don't unplug them. I do make sure that they're turned off, and they do turn off
Good.
on their own after a time. So,
Same
Good.
here. We have an electric blanket on our bed, and we don't unplug it, but we make sure it's.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
yeah.
I love your answer because I can relate to that as well,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it kind of reminds me of maybe a runner-up answer for me would have been heated car seats, especially living.
Oh, yeah.
That
Mhm.
Oh.
that's a great invention.
Yeah.
Oh.
Mhm.
Oh. Can I say something that might be a little like extra off the rails about heated seats?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, go for it.
I don't know if it's just a girl thing, but if you've overhydrated, a heated seat is your friend if you're still a few miles from home. I'm just telling you, it helps your bladder kind of like hold on. A
Hmm.
heated seat is
Hmm.
like, yeah, it's like magic.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
My kids are envious about the heated seats because they don't have them in the back seat. And they're like, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's one of the primary reasons Miss O wants to move to the front is so she can have a heated seat.
For those really cold Seattle days, right? Yeah.
Right, right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe we should just bring our heated blankets in the car.
You could, but I like the heated seats, the blankets, the comfort stuff, the
Mm-hmm.
connecting, the crock pot.
Yeah.
There's a thread there about, come together.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. I like it. I
It's a
like it.
good it's good. So how comfortable are you guys on the off the out of the comfort zone scale?
I loved it. I thought this went for me
Mhm.
actually better than the scripted ones.
Yeah.
I don't know what that says, but
It's fun to just chat. I think it's the
Mhm.
thing that when Wynne
it
and I
is.
have received, really lovely feedback from
Mhm.
people, the one thing that we've heard, because now this will be the 101st
Mhm.
episode with you, Mark, is that it just sounds like, we're visiting, which is really
Mhm.
what we're doing today.
Mhm.
That's
Yes.
I like it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
Not a far cry from what we usually do, I think is what Vicky just said.
very true.
absolutely, right? Yeah. And now we have a theme song for this episode that I've got now the Beatles come together. Is that the name of the
Mm,
song?
It
Or is that
is.
just, yeah? Yeah.
That's the name of the song.
that's good. Well, I
Yeah.
love Mark. Thank you for suggesting this. Thanks for being
Oh,
here.
you're welcome.
So
Yeah,
much
it was
fun.
a lot of fun. We may never do a scripted one again. Huh.
Right. This is it.
I mean, yeah, next time we'll have to get Tara, in not just in the pregame, but for the recorded part. And we got to see, was it Laverne or Shirley that made an appearance?
That was Shirley. She is the desk hog, and she's taken to doing that now during my team meetings at work. But luckily, my team has a good sense of humor about it.
Well,
Good.
she's a pretty girl. She's a
She
pretty
It
is.
is.
girl.
It is. All
Yeah.
right.
Well,
So
stay warm.
I hope you guys stay warm.
Yeah.
Yeah, you too.
Take
Yeah.
care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.